I'd like to call to order our December 5th work session board meeting for the Bedford City School District. And also, before we do roll call, I would like to introduce Andrew Zilla, who is sitting in for Brian Pennington. Roll call, please, Ms. Wilkins.
Mrs. White.
Here.
Mrs. Turner.
Here.
Mr. Aiken. Mr. Lippert.
Absent.
Mrs. Beck.
Here. Thank you. Please stand for the pledge of allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. If we follow the agenda, and we will be looking at item number 2, our one plan goals, and 2.01 is the acknowledgement of those goals, so we ask you to please read those at your leisure. And next on the agenda is the board presentation and communication, and that's item number 3.01, which will be a presentation by our Executive Director of Academic Achievement, Mr. Kenya Harrington, who will be,
Oh, yeah, I didn't know if he was sick. I thought he was off that call.
oh, okay. We will hear a presentation about our graded courses of study. You're on.
Thank you, Board of Education. I appreciate this time to present this program of study changes to you. I appreciate you putting together a second meeting per week. I apologize that I had to be 2 in 1 week. I'm going to share my screen here so that we can walk through this together.
Even louder.
Let's see.
Thank you.
Well, can we were just checking the audio. Could you say something, please?
All right, I apologize. It's not letting me share this. Let me try one more thing.
You want me to share, Paul?
Sure.
I think I have, hopefully I have the right one.
I can't see it.
No, we can't see it, Dr. Johnson.
You want to send it to me one more time so it's at the top of my computer screen, please?
Sure. You know what? Unless this works.
It just came up full.
Yeah, it's not, oh, there it is, okay. You just gotta make it larger.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right. You're welcome. Okay. So this is just the presentation of the program of study changes. The rationale, we have 6 rationales for changing the program of studies. We want to keep the decision student focused, create opportunities for students, give voice and choice, retain high expectations, align our curriculum, and give opportunities for staff to share their passions with our students. Now, the typical timeline is a little bit more relaxed and, excuse me, drawn out a little bit. So typically, January through June of last year, there would have been discussions within schools and buildings administration about the program of studies. And then at the beginning of this year, the department meetings would be held with principals and instructional specialists and the Department of Academic Achievement. And then in October, we would meet to review with the principals their proposed changes. And then November, create a draft, and then December, we would ask the board to approve or disapprove the program of studies. You all know more than I a little bit how last year ended, but at the beginning of this year, we were very condensed with our timeline, although we still have it for you today. In October, we met with the principals and discussed the program of studies and how the process was going to move forward. Late October, early November, we met with the instructional specialists, counselors, and building administration, and they were invited to review any potential changes for the program of studies and submit them to their building principal. Deadline for that was November 11th. Principals were to review that and send it to the Academic Achievement Department by Friday the 18th. The Department of Academic Achievement, Mr. Harrington, myself, met with Dr. Johnson for the final review of those changes. And then we have the draft tonight. I'm sorry I didn't update those dates, but tonight is the draft presentation, and then we will ask you to approve or disapprove it on the 8th, on Thursday. Any quick questions about that timeline?
Not at this
No.
time.
Okay, we're going to skip down to about midway through the presentation. Ms. Robinson is not feeling well, and she asked that she could start so she can go rest. So if you don't mind, I'm going to skip and head down to slide 30.
Good evening, everyone. I'm sorry my picture is blocked. You would definitely not want to see me today. Of course, I did not want to let my team down, which is why I am here to present the wonderful and exciting things that we have to present for you this evening. Let's just pray my voice close out, but I am definitely under the weather today, but I want to be able to go over all of these proposed changes for you all this evening. If I'm not loud enough, please let me know. I think Paul, you have control over, I think.
Okay, yeah, so I'm going to mute myself and then continue.
Our first one up for this evening under my category is an intro to automotive course for our students. In the past, we've never had an intro to, we really never had a lot of intro courses, period, which makes it unfortunate for our students. They're unable to get a taste of a course under Career Tech. So this would be a non-Career Tech pathway. It would be a full year credit. It comes under an elective course option for our 9th and 10th graders. As you know, our 11th and 12th graders already, if they choose to do an automotive pathway, they can do that in 11th and 12th grade. But this gives our 9th and 10th graders an opportunity to just get a taste of what it would be like if they decided to go down that path while still gaining some very important skills, especially as they are going into becoming 16-year-olds and also driving. So it will come under as a Career Tech elective. The graded course of study will be worked on this summer by Frank McGordy. And like it says in the rationale, we just wanted an intro course for our students to be able to have that and get a taste of what it would be like if they chose that as a pathway in 11th and 12th grade. cybersecurity. I'm sure that you're aware that cybersecurity has become just major throughout the United States as far as students going into that in college. Businesses are offering multiple different types of positions for cybersecurity, and our students are interested in cybersecurity. But this gives them, once again, an opportunity to get a taste of what cybersecurity would be like. It's a non-CTE pathway, full year, 1 credit elective course, open to 9th and 10th graders. It comes under the Career Tech elective. The graded course of study will be worked on by Mr. Darren Posek this summer. And like I said, just once again, this is a growing field for students to take as far as studying in college and career pathways. We are excited about our pre-engineering technologies. This also would be non-CTE pathway. It is a 1 semester or a half credit elective course for 9th to 10th grade students within a CTE field. It has to be taught by a CTE certified teacher. Students will acquire knowledge and skills in problem solving, teamwork, innovation, explore STEM careers. This graded course of study has already been completed. It has been given to the curriculum department, so they have this graded course of study. We are excited about having this because it will also be tied into our makerspace, where we can offer more STEM activities. And our hope and goal is to expand this whole area for Bedford High School. So once again, this is our pre-engineering technology course. I'm really excited about this. I'm hoping Dr. Johnson is smiling as she is sitting next to you, since I can't tell. But we will be adding ASL 4th year. We're excited about having that 4th year being added, since we have brought ASL to our American Sign Language to our school district. I did some research and realized that there are some states that offer ASL as a CTE pathway, so I am currently working with ODE right now. That is our goal, to have it become a pathway for our Bedford students. We have students that are absolutely excited to be in American Sign Language, and they want to take it as a career choice once they leave us. And so we will be working with Tri-C and possibly Cleveland State University. But as I stated, we are right now having those immediate conversations with the Ohio Department of Education, so that this will be one of our pathways in the fall for Bedford High School. We have a wonderful teacher, Ms. Harold, that has been the leader of American Sign Language for many years now. She already has her Career Tech endorsement for what she needs to be able to work this pathway for us. And we are just simply thrilled. The students love American Sign Language, and I'm just happy to be able to bring this as a pathway that would benefit them in the long run. Cybersecurity. We will be bringing cybersecurity as a CTE pathway. We do have some juniors right now that are under Mr. Kozak's pathway that will need to finish out. So they will finish out their senior year next year, but juniors will start off with having cybersecurity as a new course in the pathway. And so we have broken it down for you. Next year's juniors will have still infotech and a cybersecurity course. Senior year, our seniors will finish out with, I'm so sorry, my throat is a little dry, digital forensics and countermeasures. Students will earn certification before, of course, graduation. The graded course of study is what we mentioned earlier when we talked about our intro to cybersecurity. Mr. Posey will be making sure that he has a graded course of study and everything that he needs turned in and worked on. But we are excited about having cybersecurity as a pathway. As of now, so we are still part of the consortium. We are the only school that will have cybersecurity. So that just is a wonderful thing for all of us in our district. Our marketing pathway, for our marketing pathway and our business administration, as you will see in a slide coming forward in a few minutes, we just really want to make sure that our paths were defined. And in previous years, in all honesty, they weren't. We would have students that would take different courses under those paths. And then what happened would be is that they would be considered as a concentrator from the state. And those students really were just taking different things as electives. And they had no intention necessarily of going into marketing or business administration. But it cost us as a district. And so I sat down with my team. We just made sure we defined which courses you were in a marketing pathway. And like I said, later on, you will see the business administration pathway. These will be the courses that these students will take their junior year and their senior year. We will also make sure that our counselors are on board and totally understand that, since we will be starting that whole process of choosing our courses for next year for new students. And that way we don't have students who aren't interested in being any part of business administration or marketing and end up as a concentrator for us. We want to make sure that we are not taking a hit from the state for that. And so the marketing pathway, junior year, they will take marketing applications and then digital marketing. Both those courses, either one of those courses are new. And move to the next one. The new one that we did add will be merchandising and buying. Right now, currently, Ms. Webb is our instructor for this pathway. She also is the instructor that works with the students for our store, which is connected and run currently right now out of the cafeteria. So we thought that this would be the perfect course for them to add new onto her path, since she will be working with those students in the store. And then strategic entrepreneurship we've had for many years. We are adding a teaching pathway. The juniors will take foundations of education. I'm sorry. So I have a question. Okay. Teaching pathway would be new for us. Mr. Lippert, did you have a question?
No, I did not. I was trying to view. I guess I apologize.
Oh, okay. No problem, sir. The first course for juniors under the teaching pathway would be Foundations of Education and Training. In this course, they examine goals of education training, as well as environments in which education and training are delivered. They will identify learners and stakeholders, roles, rights, responsibilities in the education system. They'll learn a little bit about legal and ethical issues related to education, determine careers, interests in education and training, employability skills, and state requirements for becoming an educator will also be addressed. The second course for juniors, education principles. It's the first course in the pathway. Students will research historical perspective and theories of education, used in forming their own personal educational philosophy. They will assess legal, ethical, and organizational issues. And additionally, students will assess developmental appropriate practices and identify challenging issues associated with teaching children with diverse needs. Career planning and professional guidelines and ethical practices will also be emphasized. And those will be the two courses for junior year. Two courses for senior year, child and adolescent development. Students will examine and apply theoretical foundations of human growth and development to children and adolescents. Additionally, learners will determine children's learning styles, stage of social, emotional, cognitive, and physical development, and needed accommodations in educational settings, which we, I'm sure, can all agree how important that is for our students to learn. Throughout the course, family and community engagement will also be influenced. Cultural influences of all learners and language growth and development will be emphasized. And then lastly, for seniors, we do curriculum and instruction for teaching professions. They develop age-appropriate learning experiences and curriculum to engage children and help them learn. They will determine curriculum goals, create lesson plans, employ grading and assessment strategies to measure targeted learning outcomes. In addition, students will develop online instruction using learning management system platforms. All very important for this. This is the one slide that I was referring to earlier with business administration courses. these are not new courses. What we simply did was clean up what was already being offered in Bedford High School to define the business and administration pathway. And so junior year, students would take business foundations and fundamentals of business administration. They're both for half credit, so they'll take one first semester, then the fundamentals of business administration second semester. Their year-long course for that year is office management. Senior year, these are each one-year courses, so management principles and operations management they would take at the same time for the year. And then we have other electives, that are out there for our students to take if they do want to try their hand in some management or business courses, but this way they won't get confused and they won't get attached to our pathways. And we won't have those students become what's called a concentrator, and we won't take a hit as a district from the state, which is very, very important to do. Employability in the marketplace, primary, 9th, and 10th graders. This will give them a taste, if they're interested in finding out more about the business area. We've kind of revised this course. The course is intended to give you an overview of soft skills needed to be successful in the workforce, which we feel is very, very important for our students. And one of the main things that we have found that has been lacking since COVID. They will work to develop skills in communication, oral and written, develop personal goal setting, leadership, teamwork, business etiquette, and just ethics in the workforce. Through project-based problem solving and critical thinking activities in small groups, and individually, they will explore the issues and concerns of various career clusters. We've added to this description that students will have the ability to earn volunteer hours by doing one class volunteer project and one individual volunteer project. As we know, students need volunteer hours to graduate, so this is another way that can help them get those hours. And we just kind of broke it down with some examples, like it could take place at a food bank, a homeless shelter, field trip to that location. Students select location to volunteer, like a hospital, recreation center. Breaks it down to 3 to 5 hours in total. Students must complete the volunteer document and have it signed by the supervisor. But the difference would be that they would have an instructor that would help them through this process, through this course. They would not just be left out by themselves trying to figure out how to get those community service hours, where sometimes no one's checking in on them. Through this course, this would be done. They'd have someone that's saying, how is that going with your community service? Do you need me to intervene? Do we need to find another location? And they would check on their project through this process. And so we're very excited about bringing this course to our 9th and 10th graders so they can get those soft skills developed and work on, and also get some community service hours while in this class. We did add this. Katrina Myers does a consortium course description packet. She is the one that designs it for the consortium. So we have linked into here what she has. Our development time for coursework versus the consortium's time of development for coursework descriptions are different. Just simply because there are 5 schools and all schools are working on things at the same time, but not necessarily with the same end date. And so students, we want to at least share with you what we have from her, but I know that she will be adding more things to that because as far as I know, we're the first group that's kind of in this process right now as far as the course of study handbook. Other schools are still working on that and still having those discussions. Thank you. Carl, you're on mute.
Thank you, Carla. So that's the CTE changes and the career and technical changes.
I'm sorry, they had some questions?
That is absolutely fine.
Thank you before you leave, Mr. Robinson, thank you so much for being here, even though you're not feeling too well, and making it through your presentation. A couple questions I had. So when you we're referring to the automotive or those earlier ones, the pre, courses. I think it's great that we're offering it to the 9th and 10th graders, but I saw that it says full year credits, but does that mean that it's taken for a full year? Okay,
Yes, it is a full year. Mr. McGordy, I did ask him about that when we had the conversation while developing this intro to automotive course. And he wants to be able to give the students, a pretty well overview of everything, you know. Just because it's an intro course, he felt that they should be leaving with some hard skills, that will help them with car care, maintenance. Like I said, the 16-year-olds will be driving pretty soon. Everything that will come under that umbrella. No, it would not be obviously a 2-year pathway. It is an intro course, but he felt that it would take them a year, for them to get everything that he wanted in that course. And so it is a full credit for those students.
okay. Thank you, because I was just wondering, for instance, when you were talking about intro, I was thinking it would only be a portion of the year, like one semester and not necessarily a full year. And the only thing I also think about that is because a student may get into it, but then decide, what happens when that student decides, okay, this is not what I actually want to do, or, you know, or thinking something else. So, just an idea of shortening it, in the need of that, or in the instance that actually ends up occurring.
I see what you're saying too, Carla, because especially in that 9th and 10th grade year, I'm sure Felicia's probably also thinking, what are we gonna, like, they gotta back that up with something, because you need to get your PE, you need to get your, health requirements, in there, and that will lock the student in and limit, their other options. So,
Okay,
Mrs. Boyd,
okay,
do you have something?
that's
to
not a
add?
problem.
That's what I was.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Then, with the marketing pathway, that I saw on there, is there a way to connect that? Cause I see the advantageousness of the opportunity to connect that with the media. So have you thought about a potential connection to that?
Well, these are set courses.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so I don't know, Carla, if you wanna talk a little about that, these are pretty specific and set courses, to my understanding. Am I
Yes.
correct in that?
Yes.
'Cause they have to align also to the ODE codes.
Correct,
also. And
correct.
media is a completely different track.
Pathway.
Gotcha. Okay, okay,
Yeah, media has its own pathway.
okay, all right. I can see how those could connect, so that's why I
But
was.
that's, but that's not to say we won't try and develop that, you know, eventually also though. And I
Right.
hear exactly what you're saying about having a media pathway.
For sure, you know, social
And
media.
and I get excited about bringing as many pathways to Bedford as I possibly can. But this one does have a more set one from ODE. And so media would have its own pathway from the state.
Gotcha, thank you. And then last one, under the business coursework, business administration, I don't see anything that speaks to leadership. Has that been a thought, to add, or maybe in the operations management, kind of pushing something into that portion that is leadership, or adding something, as far as leadership when you're talking about business administration and leading organizations, or some type of organizational, course?
For the business administration, if you can go back to that slide, Paul.
Yeah.
So these two, it is also a pathway. We are able to choose from a selection of courses, that pertain to business and administration. That's not to say that we can't get the students, we can make those business connections and bring business people in, and perhaps they can do some leadership, like quick seminar series. But as far as them having one that was a leadership management or a business leadership under that umbrella, that did not pertain to this pathway. But that's why we're also working with making those business relationships and having them to be able to come in and make those connections with our students. So that's never a problem to add that in within, a semester or a year, so that they can get a chance to have some of those leadership opportunities.
Carla, I'm guessing that, like, under management principles and operations management, maybe, you can relay that message in terms of when they're updating or doing that curriculum?
Yes,
That should
absolutely.
be a part of that coursework.
Yes, that's,
Absolutely,
thank you.
not a problem at all. Are there any other questions? Thank you so much for letting me have this opportunity to share some of the exciting things that are happening next year for under the CTE umbrella.
Thank you so much, we really appreciate it. I had some sidebar conversation with Dr. Johnson, so she answered my questions.
Oh.
All right, thank you.
Okay,
All right.
thank you.
Did you have any? Brandon, did you have any questions? Mr. Lippert?
No, what I heard, which was, I don't think I probably heard the presentation. I didn't have any questions for that. And again, I apologize for being late, not being there.
That is okay, no problems at all.
If there's no other questions on that section, I'll go ahead and move back towards the beginning of the presentation and continue.
Thank you all. I will bid my goodbye for the evening, but thank you, my wonderful team and Dr. Johnson.
Thanks, Carla.
Yes, thank you. We hope you feel better. Okay, we do, just to let you know, we do have some minor changes for Bedford High School and Escott Middle School program of studies. Things like spelling errors, names, titles, changing terms from guidance counselor to school counselor. That's just pretty general things that that will change throughout the fall. AP tests. So currently, students are required to take the AP test in the spring if they're taking the course. Students pay for those AP tests and are then reimbursed if they earn a score of 3, 4, or 5. And the proposal is to have the district pay for all AP tests, no matter what the students get as the final score. And the rationale is to create a little bit more equity among all of our students. The next category of changes is the graduation seals. So, after completing all the course requirements and competency on the end of course exams, students must complete 2 graduation seals. So this is just a reminder to you. One of those must be what's called state-defined, and the state gives us 9 options. And I listed a couple of those options for you: college readiness, military enlistment, etc. The second of those seals can be locally defined. The state gives us 3 options: community service, fine and performing arts, and student engagement. The community service was put into effect prior to this year, so students are required to complete 40 hours of community service by graduation. What we would like to add is some verbiage in there that says, well, what if a student transfers in mid-year or midway through their high school career? Now, if a junior transfers in, we didn't think it was fair to require that student to earn all 40 hours in, let's say, a year and a half. So the verbiage that we're asking to put in is that students will complete an equivalent of 10 hours per year. So it just kind of defines that a little bit more and gives some equity to the students who transfer in or out of Bedford City Schools.
One second, I'm sorry, Mr. Worthington.
Yes, go ahead.
With that, you're saying that's gonna be an amendment, this is what you're, presenting as far as being an amendment to what is already is there, correct? But
That's
currently is
correct.
at the 40 hours, so this is an amendment to that.
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. So the second seal is the fine and performing arts seal. We do not currently have this in place, so this is brand new. And what we're proposing is that students will earn 2 high school credits with a grade of C or better within the fine and performing arts area. The student would also have to complete 5 additional components, and these components, there's a long laundry list of components that students can participate in and earn. For example, having an art piece that's displayed in the school, participating in an art show, participating in a choir concert, participating at a state level performance, OMEA. There are approximately 50 different ways students can earn the 5 components. And this is a brand new seal that students can earn if they need help to earn their high school diploma. So essentially, if a student is involved in the marching band or the choir, and they participate in choir for 2 years and also participate in performances, then they will earn this seal. And the third locally defined seal is the student engagement seal. We do not have this in place, so we are asking to add that students who have active participation in at least one Bedford High School extracurricular activity for 4 semesters or 2 full years or 6 athletic seasons. And these could be any school-sponsored sports, clubs, student councils, leadership activities, key club, etc. And if they participate in at least within 4 semesters or 6 athletic seasons, then they would earn this seal. The next section focuses on course sequence. We feel that currently our social studies sequence is a little out of order. So currently, our freshmen take U.S. history or U.S. studies, and then as sophomores, they take 1 semester of world history or world studies, and then a semester of economics, and then in 11th grade, they take a full year of government. Now, from what I understand, this was implemented years ago, I believe over 10 years ago. This sequence was changed to what it looks like now. And the attempt was reduce the number of end-of-course exams for 10th graders. It may not have been 10 years ago, that's just an estimate. So 10th graders are taking U.S. history, end-of-course exam, biology, and ELA 2. So the rationale was to move U.S. history to 9th grade year, so they would take an end-of-course exam their freshman year and not multiple during their sophomore year. But what happened was it created an off sequence and a fractured learning of history, because most surrounding schools and most schools in Ohio, as suggested by Department of Education, suggest this way, and this is what we're proposing. So we'd like to change it to world studies freshman year, full year of U.S. studies sophomore year, and then replace economics with personal finance. And this would realign the natural sequence of learning history and remove any gaps in knowledge. what I've highlighted there is just a little bit of logistics, what it would look like next year in high school. That just means that for next year, all 9th and 10th grade students would take world studies. And then the following year, the new 9th graders would take world studies, and 10th graders would take US studies. And then financial literacy, so the state is requiring all students who are currently freshmen, by the time they graduate, they have to take a one-semester course that focuses on financial literacy. So our proposal is that all sophomores will take personal finance. That will back up right up against their health class. So let's say first semester they'll take health, second semester they'll take personal finance, or vice versa. And this will be taught by our CTE or business teachers. There's some other things that this affects. Within the program of studies, there are some suggested pathways. So obviously we would change all those pathways within the program of studies. We would move US AP history to 10th grade, so that 10th graders would either take regular US history or AP US history. And what that would also do would be to add another option of an AT class for our students. And I'll describe that on a different slide. This was another slide for our CTE course. This capstone seniors would just be renamed capstone, and the proposal is to have juniors and or sophomores take this course so they can earn Ohio means jobs and the Rise Up credentials. And that's another option for increased graduation. This course will be given to sophomores, juniors, so there will be no added stress of being prepared for graduation. Again, a different pathway to graduation. So I went through a lot. I still have some more. Do you want to pause for questions at this point on the things that I covered?
I was, sidebar here, but I was just questioning on the last slide because of the fact that you added the portion where it says you're changing economics to the personal finance. But it doesn't, you brought up government in the first one, but it's not indicating whether government still falls. I mean, just from my understanding and just looking through it, it kind of almost looks like the government is left off. So are we still saying that government is still gonna be in there, but it's just gonna fall in the 11th or the 12th grade, year cycles?
Yes, I
Is that the
apologize.
assumption?
That's not real clear on the slideshow. Yes, the students would still take government their junior year.
So junior, so senior year, you wouldn't necessarily have a social studies except for the captain stuff or taking an AP course or a collegiate course.
Correct. That would be the same this year. Students only need 3 social studies classes to graduate.
Okay. And then how does personal finance, maybe you can't speak to it, but with sophomores taking a full year of US studies and the personal finance, could you just kind of give an example of what a schedule could look like with seeing all of those?
Yes, let me bring up, so the program of studies has several examples of how, like schedule. So let me bring that up and I can present that.
While you're doing that, Paul, to the board, I just want to excuse myself now. I am at Cleveland Clinic with my mom, so I'm gonna excuse myself. I didn't want to leave without acknowledging you all.
Thank you. Have a good evening.
Okay, so I believe that was Ms. Birch that was asking this question. Here's an example of recommended high school graduation pathway. So their ninth grade year, they would take in English, world studies, algebra 1, physical science, phys ed, and then maybe a Spanish, and then freshman concepts. Their 10th grade year, they would take English 2, U.S. studies, geometry, biology, and then since health and personal finance are just a semester apiece, they could take that opposite each other, and then let's say maybe a Spanish 2, and computer class. So that's kind of how that would look. Does that answer your question?
It does, thank you. I just need, I'm a visual and audio, so I just need to see what it potentially would look like. So thank you, I appreciate it.
You're welcome. Okay, anything else before we move on to other new courses?
At this time.
Okay, so this is one we just talked about, adding a an AP World History course, full year, full credit, open to ninth grade students. This would be your typical accelerated collegiate program student. Currently, ninth graders take an honors U.S. studies. This would be another opportunity for an AP course. Two rather exciting courses that are being proposed are digital photography. Digital photography 1 and 2. These are each semester courses where students take their own take photos, they edit them, look at current historical photographs. Of course, digital photography 2 will be a little bit more advanced, get into lighting and digital manipulation techniques. Students can supply their own camera or phone. There is a cost to this because there is quite a lot of technology involved. Students can use their own phone. In this approximate cost would include 15 cameras that they could use if they didn't want to use their own phone. And then of course we are asking for computers so that students can digitally edit their photos and create some copies. And the rationale here is that again, this is a little bit more relevant to students nowadays, using their phones for pretty much everything. We currently have psychology course, and it is a highly requested course by students. So we are suggesting a psychology 2 course, which would just be 1 semester, half credit, elective open to 11th and 12th grade. So Ms. Birch, this would be something that a junior or senior could take after they have fulfilled all their social studies credits.
I have a question. If they're in a pathway, especially like the education pathway, could this, not saying that, it's in conjunction with, but could this be something that could be assisted with them with adding into, if they're on that specific pathway? And I can see it advantageousness in business administration too, that maybe they can be encouraged to take this course, even if they're in those particular CTE.
I would absolutely agree with that, yes.
Okay.
We're also introducing an introduction and an advanced dance course. So each of these would be a half a credit physical education elective, open to 10, 11th, and 12th graders. You can see this one talks about skills and processes for dance, kinesthetic intelligence, choreography. And then the comprehensive dance is the I guess you could say advanced dance course. Performing, art history, art criticism, etc. We also are introducing a new category that students can take courses on. That's family and consumer science. We'd like to introduce a cooking course, 1 semester, half credit, open to students in the family and consumer science category. A career and college readiness course for this 1 semester, half credit course, again under this family and consumer science elective. In an additional category, career technology electives, and this is what Carla presented on already. So before we move on to the changes for HESKIT, are there any other questions on the new courses that I've presented?
I do have one question, and it's in regards to the digital photography, and you spoke of the computers. I can see a huge interest in this course, only because that's just where we are in this age. So what are we looking at as far as maybe the number of students and number of computers, is that's the cost that you're looking at? I wanted to know how you come up with that cost. You based
So
on
with
number of
it-
students that may be interested in the course or what?
So just within this approximate cost, we've allotted for 15 computers, and of course not all the students would need to be on the computers at the same time. So this would outfit 1 class, and of course we could run multiple periods of that same class.
I'm sorry, Mr. Rosencroft, you said 15 computers?
Yes, 15 computers.
Cause that's, yeah, that is something that we'll need to circle back around. I think we talked about size.
Yeah, so that would just be, if it was 5 computers, approximately $5,000 in computers.
Okay.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Paul, have we received specific expression of interest from students in a course like this? Or I guess any of the new courses, have students actually voiced a level of interest in photography and the other ones that you mentioned and so on?
I believe that this interest did come from students. This proposal came from our art department and our teachers in the art department. I couldn't tell you that I have specific data that says that students particularly want digital photography, but this did come from our staff.
I will say, Paul, I'm sorry, Mr. Lippert, that you guys did do some surveys that we'll be talking about at our, Wednesday night at our community, facilities planning meeting. We can get some of that data from, our teachers as well, because they do make proposals to the curriculum department based upon student interest, so we can ask them for some of that information. But we do know that this has been something that, just in some of our, like, Students of Excellence conversations and some other conversations with students, to provide more of a variety of courses in the arts, or the field of the arts, and updating our curriculum. So they did work last summer as a summer study, I believe, to write this curriculum for this.
That is correct. We did do a student interest survey for some of these courses. where we got almost 500 responses from students. So we do have quite a few, I'm looking at it right now on a different screen. I'm seeing cooking, video creation, just to name a few that I'm looking at right now. Graphic design.
So it was my understanding that this was developed based upon that pathway. As we look at our career tech programming, we can't add everything right now, but we wanted to just kind of pique the kids' interest, which would align with some of what's going to be taught in this class.
Okay. And I was, I think I probably perhaps missed this, but, so if the students that are in a CTE or career tech pathway, are other students, I guess, who are not in those pathways, are they categorized in some way? Are there like avenues that can, or pathways that kids that are not, are there other categorizations of students outside of the career tech pathways that have to do with the courses that they are taking?
I'm not sure if, I know Carla and Tina had to leave, but that's something that we can kind of come and have her map out for you. But there's kind of like an academy type pathway, but there's all kind of pathways, right? Whether it's career readiness, college readiness, or you're going to work, which also goes back to kind of, I think, the state's direction of having those seals that they talked about and piquing the interest. The students very early on have to do what they call grad plans, and sit down with the counseling team. I don't want to speak for you, Paul. I don't know if you want to talk about that and how that aligns to the courses that the kids take. So I know Mr. Warzencroft, if you want to talk a little bit about that, Mr. Warzencroft?
I'm sorry, can you repeat that?
I'm sorry, I had this mask on. I was sharing that we have the graduation plan that's required. And so based upon the graduation plan and the students going over what their short and long-term goals are, that guides them in terms of what courses they want to take. The good thing about the shift that we're going with how we're doing CTE is that kids don't have to get locked in. Kind of like what Mrs. Birch talked about, you might not like a class, right? So you won't be locked in for 2 years or 3 years or 4 years if you decide to choose a different direction. So you have some classes that they call the pathways to kind of give you a taste or idea, but the goal is for what kids take should be aligned to their graduation pathway.
Yes, I think you explained that very well.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, bear with me as I move down to the end. Heskett Middle School has only very minor changes. So it's just one slide, and really we changed a few things. So up through last year, we used MAP testing for some diagnostics, and we decided to switch to iReady for diagnostics and for tracking the students. So we replaced all references to MAP with iReady. We also used to use MAP scores for placement within advanced courses like social studies and language arts. Of course, we will replace that with iReady scores for placement. There still were references to AIR scores, and we replaced that with end of year state assessment just in case that changes. We won't have to change the AIR score. And then one final thing for Heskett, was to change the titles of the health courses. It doesn't change anything besides just the title. And then finally, after the review of the program of studies, and of course, we hope that you review them as well, and if you decide to vote on approving the proposed changes, then what will come next is the course request by students, both at high school and Heskett, and of course, starting to put the puzzle together of the master schedule for next year. And that is all I have. If you have any further questions.
Can you go back to that last slide you had up? Not that one. The one prior. So what would the health, titles change to, or are there different types of health classes? Is that what this is alluding to say?
Let me pull that up. The health title. Was changed from Health 1 to 7th grade Health, and changed from Health 2 to 8th grade Health, because that's where they take those health courses, 7th grade and 8th grade.
Gotcha. And then additionally, thank you for that, for clarity. And then additionally, I know we spoke briefly, but I forgot about the thought. With government, I've seen some disjointment with how government is taught. Is that gonna affect this course of study as well? Or, have you talked to the social study or the government teachers to see how even that course could be more aligned? Or does that have anything to do with this?
No, we haven't had that conversation about the alignment or the standards within the government course. So currently, we have no proposed changes to that course.
Gotcha. I was gonna say, I'm not sure, I'm not aware of that. I thought that was one of the in the course exams that we did the best in. And looking at our data, as a district, that's kind of, I think one of the only, ones that we met. But you might wanna pull that, Paul.
Yeah, I would just say have a conversation with some of your social studies teachers, especially ones that teach government. Because I've kind of seen how like the flow of it starts one way and then goes to another, but it could be better, I don't know what I want to say. Go step by step.
So yeah, they're more than welcome. I mean, I don't know if they've shared that with you, Paul, but, they're more than welcome to, sign up for a summer study. If they want to do some curriculum writing, to adjust their pacing guides, in their curriculum maps, and then they, present those, to Paul and Kenny at the end of the summer.
Yeah, absolutely. They can definitely propose that, but no, I haven't had any conversations about that in government.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
And so this will be on the agenda for this coming Thursday, with the goal, going back to your timeline, that we would, get this into the hands of, families over the break. Because when they come back from winter break, they hit the ground running with registration. I do know that the high school team is going down to Heskett before break, and then they'll go down again after break.
Right.
Thank you so much, Paul. Board, do we have any more questions?
I just have a comment. Thank you so much. I think this was well put together. Thank you all for your presence with being here, even in the space of not feeling well also. But I really like the new updates. This is what you're talking about when you're 21st century learning, is these new spaces where children could have an opportunity to engage in things that are taking place right now. I don't like to say the real world because they live in the real world, right? And many of them already work. So it's building on those goals that we have set about building soft skills and making them ready to be productive citizens. This is exactly what living out our mission is. So I appreciate the work, Dr. Johnson, that you and your team, and all of you, Mr. Harrington and Mr. Worthington, all of you all working together. I think this is awesome and amazing. So thank you very much for answering my questions as well.
Absolutely, thank you.
I'm sorry, one of the things that I was wondering about, I think that I heard most of it, but I'm not sure. Was any ever talk anything about really designated curriculum around entrepreneurship?
I'm not sure if he heard you, Mr. Lippert. He asked about entrepreneurship, but that was in that business track. Mr. Lippert?
So, again, that's interesting, that or that kind of career check pathway, so that's something that is in the curriculum that really have broad government to make exposure to entrepreneurship.
I'm sorry, we can hardly hear you, but I think you asked, did they have to be in the CTE track? I don't know for sure, but one of the business courses is not, I believe, CTE. But I think Mr. Worthington and Mr. Harrington can tell you, I did ask about something like that, down, like, maybe not next year, but maybe the following, to kind of look at some of those elective courses, because we gotta take something off the table every time we add something to the table, just to be fiscally responsible, and just kind of map it out. One of the things that Mr. Wozencroft shared is typically we start these conversations in the spring regarding the courses that need to be added. So we were racing a little bit against time by having to start in October. But definitely, I think that's something that you can jot down, Mr. Wozencroft, because I do know some districts, Mr. Lifford, just have a specific course that says entrepreneurship. So that's something that we can talk about because it takes time to kind of write that curriculum and everything out.
Yeah, I mean, and I think, I'm sorry about the noise. I think that is, I think it's something that we should absolutely think about really implementing into core, I guess not, I don't want to use the wrong term, but curriculum that is really accessible for every single student. I just think it's really, really important for young people to have that mindset as we look at the future economy and the way that there will be kind of the evolving landscape of whether it's the workforce or just the general economy in general, for kids to kind of have this idea about creating something in terms of a business or and a career for themselves. So.
Yeah, and I feel horrible because I should know this, but I'm having a bit of a brain fog right now, Mr. Cooper. But Carla and Tina can talk to you a little bit more about our plans for that and the partnerships that we have. There are some things already happening. And I know this organization has been around for like years. I'm going to think about it on the way home. But they're already working in our elementary and primary buildings in terms of entrepreneurship and kids starting up business. Junior achievement. And so they've been talking to us, thanks Mrs. Birch, about their abilities to assist us in writing curriculum and things of that nature. They have a really a fired up gentleman that's so excited about some of the things that you're talking about. So I do know that Carla Robinson has been working with him to develop some curriculum over the next couple of months through junior achievement, with the understanding that we'll, circle back around in the spring to talk about some of those courses at the high school level. But we felt it was important that we start having those conversations with kids even prior to high school, if that makes sense. Sorry about that.
Sure, thanks.
All right, thank you again, thank you again, Paul. Sorry. Yes.
My pleasure.
Thanks so much, and I like the new courses as well. Not that we're competing with other schools, but you do compare what's being offered in other school districts. But we just need to bring our children back home, offer them the things that are attractive to other districts, and so I appreciate it, and Mr. Harrington, I really, really do appreciate the direction that you're going. Thank you. All right. That concludes our presentation, and for if I could have, if there's nothing else, I have a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
It's been moved by Ms. Burke, and second by Ms. Macklin. We don't have any more discussions or comments. Brandon? Roll call, please.
Mrs. Turner?
Yes.
Mrs. Beckman?
Yes.
Mrs. Ford?
Yes. Motion passes 3 to 0. Thank you, everyone. Have a good evening.